Oh, hello. Welcome to In This Very Moment. I'm Cindy James, and I'm having a cup of decaf English breakfast tea out of one of my favorite mugs. This is a shameless plug for the Galactic Council of Women. All genders welcome, just as with in movies, people are drinking a Pepsi or using some sort of laundry detergent in the movie. So I'm just going to have a sip now. Ooh, yum. Hello, lovely people. How are you in this very moment? My brother Stephen used to tell me, and my niece Maya Rose told me that in China, people don't say, "How are you?" They ask something like, "Have you eaten?" or "How was what you ate today?" So I'll ask you, how has your food been today? What have you been nourishing yourself with? Was it good? I made this turkey goulash for dinner for my brother and my sister and my sister-in-law who came in. I had that for breakfast with kale in it and added a beaten up egg, and it was freaking delicious. So I've eaten well today, and of course, having this lovely cup of tea. So let today be a day that you can be nourished. You might notice that my voice is a little gravelly. I mean, I don't know if young people would know this, but there was this actress who might not be in the body anymore. Her name was Brenda Vaccaro, and she had this sexy kind of voice. So whenever our voice gets like this, we always say Brenda Vaccaro. So Brenda, wherever you are in this realm or another, I'm feeling like you today. Today's theme for In This Very Moment is the grace of compassion, or the compassion of grace. Oh, sweet Lord, I've needed some compassion for myself, and I've been getting it. I have this writing on my refrigerator that I wrote down 2 years ago when I was taking a class. I'm part of so many different amazing high vibrational, I'll call it spiritual groups. I define spirituality as that which brings you the feeling of joy and that sense that all is well and that you are deeply connected to something greater than yourself and that you belong. So when I call spiritual groups, I am blessed to be part of many groups that help me feel joy, that help me feel all is well, that allow me to feel that connection to something greater than myself in me and around me, and help me know that I so truly belong. And I was on one of these groups, a class from this group, and we were studying a book called Effort and Grace by Darwin Shaw. And what the leader of the group said was that self-compassion is more important than self-improvement. I just think that is, I mean, it might be blasphemy to the active doer part of yourself, the harsh taskmaster, the one that can prove that the good stuff that you have came from how hard you work and how you depleted. And it might be contradictory to a lot of the ingrained belief system in our planet of ours as a whole. But I will say, I will speak the blasphemy for our deeper truths and for everyone, that self-compassion is not only more important than self-improvement. Self-compassion is the magic alchemy that creates the self-improvement that we so long for. I remember learning when I was studying Buddhism and became Buddhist for a while. I believe we're all everything, and that was part of a beautiful part of my spiritual path that is still always with me. And I remember learning that in the Buddhist notion, how it was taught to me, that compassion was love tempered with wisdom. Like the pure, unconditional love that springs from our soul, tempered with the wisdom that comes from the intellect, that comes from the universal mind, that we need a balance of heart and mind. And that love tempered with wisdom. So that love that says that I am okay, with the wisdom to know that I'm going to still grow. I used to be afraid of compassion because I thought it was like a get out of jail free card in a world that I thought I needed to be punished and other people needed to be punished to grow. I'm going to just say that again. That belief that I needed to be punished or other people needed to be punished in order to grow. Oh, I know I still have that within me. And I know that others have it within them. And I know it's been ingrained into our system. And it's kind of like right church, wrong pew. Yes, we long to grow. And whatever punishment that we've taken that to be is really just a balancing of experiences. What I like to learn now, I had an experience in the last week where I felt hurt and then I acted harshly in response. And what I came to know in that moment that I've been cultivating is that out of compassion and love for myself, I don't like how it felt to be hurt and to then be harsh in response to it. It's a relatively minor issue, as I think most of the issues are that most of us experience, although some of them certainly are super humdinger, huge rat bastard issues. But when I come to think about what was at play before I even got hurt, it had to do with me wanting something outside of myself to validate, to prove that I existed, that I mattered. And when that wasn't spoon-fed to me in a codependent way, or however I want to describe it to myself, then I became harsh. And I didn't like how I felt in either way. And I didn't like how it made the other person feel that I was in relationship with. And from that place, I can have compassion for our humanity. We are always, unless you're a perfect master, I always have a perfect master disclaimer. Unless you're a perfect master, unless you have fully realized at the personality level that you are the soul, that you are an infinite being, and every thought, word, deed, action, and everything that happens to you comes from that infinite place. Well, first of all, thank you for the support of us humans that are awakening, including me, because we need you. But unless you're one of those, we are always going to have those instances that bring up those areas of our existence that are still in the dark. I like to describe it like an electrical system, or just even our blood system. If there's a place in my body where my arteries are more constricted, have more calcium built up, or whatever kind of plaque might be in there, there won't be as much blood flow. And if I were to get some sort of test and show that everything was fine, but one specific place, I might have a stent put in or some sort of procedure that opens the blood flow. So that highlight of where the blockage is actually a blessing. I saw a friend of mine on Facebook had by happenstance found that there was major blockages, quadruple 90% occlusion, and then had surgery to open them up. So whatever brings us to see that there is a blockage actually is the mechanism for more of the blood or more of the energy or more of the positive creative life force perspective energy to flow. So then when we have these issues with people that we love and care about, or even that we don't think we love and care about if we're watching what's going on around us or in the world, what that really does is highlight a place in us where there's a short in our electrical structure or there's a blockage. And we get to shine the light of love and compassion on it so that it opens up and we find out what the originating cause of the whole slippery slope of that painful endeavor was, which usually has nothing to do with what happened in the moment. That just happened to be the thing that shone the right way to say that now, that shined the flashlight on it. I love grammar. I love that I don't know all my grammar anymore. So good as well. I'm going to put on my glasses. I think it's really fun because I feel like I'm really smart now. And I'm going to read something that I read this morning. I got this email from one of the beautiful spiritual groups that I'm part of, from a man named Jeff, who's also the leader of this group, Effort and Grace. And he does lots of wonderful things. He has these late night chats so people all over the world in different time zones can be part of them. He's quoting Meher Baba, crazy great spiritual master, avatar of the age, supernova, amazing, about anger. And this has to do with the desires when we're not getting what we want. Anger is the fume of an irritated mind. It is caused by the thwarting of desires. It feeds the limited ego and is used for domination and aggression. It aims at removing the obstacles existing in the fulfillment of desires. That's a lot. So I'm going to read it again and let each of these things, whether your mind is getting it or not, whether your irritated mind is getting it or not, let it come to you. Let the vibration of my voice, reading the vibration of this infinite wisdom, this enlightening, enlivening wisdom, let it be a healing balm for the places in you that might be short-circuited or blocked without even you knowing it. And let it also, by your very presence, emanate out you as a beacon, as a drop, a ripple, and a drop of water to everyone and everything, to understand what's happening in our own lives and on the planet. Anger is the fume of an irritated mind. It is caused by the thwarting of desires. It feeds the limited ego, and is used for domination and aggression. It aims at removing the obstacles existing to the fulfillment of desires. And I think that last sentence is the right church, wrong pew thing. It aims at removing the obstacles existing to the fulfillment of desires. And so I just want to say that I love like taking off the glasses too. It's just so fun. I'll do this as well. Have some fun playing and imagining that like you're a little kid and you're looking in a mirror and you're doing fun things with yourself. As I like to say, and I know to be true, and so many people know to be true, that unleashing the imagination of our youth and combining it with the deeply caring heart and the perspective and wisdom and conscious power of our adult selves, that's what's going to bring the world that we long for, not just our own world, but to the whole world. And that's what the Galactic Council of Women, All Genders Welcome, is devoted to. It's why it's called something so crazy great like that, something so huge. So there are no limits. There's nothing that can shame us into not playing. And I hope, it's my intention that my life and these forums that I offer and the way that I express and share myself will model being okay with who and what you are. I'll share something really embarrassing. So, well, I don't know what it is, but it's very human and vulnerable. So I got some sort of, my body had a virus that proliferated, or a bacteria or whatever sort of microbe in my system a couple weeks ago. And it had its way with my body, and my immune system, really great immune system, needed some support from the medical realm as well as the alternative realm. And from the medical realm, I don't generally participate in a lot of that because I have these paradoxical reactions to medications. And what that means is the 1% that has the crazy reaction is normally me. But I needed some good old-fashioned steroids in order to breathe. For the first time in years, I had an asthmatic cough as a result of a virus or bacteria. And when I get that kind of cough, sweet Lord, the pelvic floor is not safe. I mean, I had to make a choice between the muscles of my back and my pelvic floor. My mind also goes like the Family Circus cartoon. So I hope I get back to, it's all about thwarting of desires, but I'm going to share a vulnerable moment to get back to desires. And I hope I've popcorned enough of that to get back to it. But what I mean by that is, it reminds me of something the comedian Maya Rudolph said, that at a certain point, a woman has to choose between her face and her ass. She can have a young looking face and a bigger ass, or a tight ass and the face of Skeletor. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I think that that's kind of funny. And I think it's also illustrative of what women do, and I'm sure men too, and people, all gender expressions do, to try and be liked and loved and feel safe and all of that. But to have a nice, shapely, bigger ass, but a young face, or have a really skeletal face and a tight ass. I see people with both or neither, all that. But it reminds me about what I was, well, actually it doesn't remind me, because now I forgot what I was going to say about that. Oh, the back or the ass. So I was walking into the pharmacy to get said steroids so that I could breathe, and inhaled as well as oral. and I had a coughing spasm. Normally what I do, because I have pulled so many muscles in my back in these coughing spasms, I would have to sit and crouch in order to do that. And when you sit and crouch, I mean, my mom, God bless her, whenever she coughed, she would pass gas, and she'd always say, I had 4 babies. Well, I had 4 babies too. And usually my pelvic floor is pretty strong now, but not after the coughs. So I was coughing walking into the store, and I not only shit my pants, I also peed my pants in that moment. Luckily, I had a maxi pad the size of Kansas on for just such an occasion. And I texted my sister. I'm like, well, that just happened. And now I'm walking into the store, and I had to laugh because I just got this highlight transmission for an amazing healer about my role on the planet as raising the whole planetary matrix and the energy of planet Earth in order to help us humans transform. And I know that to be true. I've known it my whole entire life, and I'm living that. And it doesn't matter whether I'm a galactic empress or Cindy Lou Who, I can still have a coughing spasm and pee my pants. She's a very pretty girl, the type you don't take home to mama. But as I'm walking in, and I just thought, I tied my coat around my waist, I sprayed lavender hand spray so I wouldn't smell like a dirty diaper walking in. And I got my medicine, and I went home and wondered why any child wouldn't want to potty train, because it was not a pleasant experience. Now, it wasn't down my legs and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why I share this with you is that the compassion for the human experience and the desires. So the anger, the irritated mind comes from the thwarting of desires. And we try to have that dominion or aggression in order to fulfill our desires. But when our desires are linked to the dynamic of pride and shame, and the dynamic of making sure you're not too big that you don't get noticed and hurt, or you're so big that you can't be hurt, we screw ourselves over, we screw our lives over, and we screw everyone and everything over trying to feel good. Again, the road to hell being paved with good intentions, or the road to feeling more and more separate from what we are. So at that moment, I realized that my pride, meaning that I didn't want people to see me, smell me, I didn't want to think about what had just happened, would have had me go home to get washed up and come back. But I needed that medicine stat. I needed to breathe in that moment. I needed an albuterol inhaler. And I just thought, well, what everyone else thinks of me, I'm sure there's plenty of people in this environment with COVID and what it's done, with all of the COPD that's existed in the world, with the viruses that are going around. There's plenty of people on this planet that are excreting. And I'll tell you this, I didn't know this until I attended my first birth as a healer, as an energy healer, it'll be 21 or 22 years ago, May 4th, I got to attend the birth of the first baby that I was in service to the family. Of course, I was in service when I birthed my 4. I wish I could remember when it's 22 or 24. What's 1995 plus 5 is 2000. So I think it's 22 years ago. When a woman is giving birth, and I've attended lots of births, so it's not to like out anyone's, your actual inside, your pelvic floor come inside out. And if you're not peeing and pooping when you're having a baby, you're probably not having a baby vaginally. So it's also really good. A lot of life force happens with this cleansing process. I will also say I had no idea I was going to talk about this when in this very moment started. So for those of you that don't like potty talk, I apologize for offending your sensibility. And I also say you're welcome for offending your sensibilities, because whatever sensibilities, whatever our desires are that come from the pride shame dynamic, you cannot have pride without having shame. They are bedfellows. You'll have it and then you'll seesaw back and forth. Those energies will not go away. So it's like, I'm not going to have pride. I'm not going to have pride. I'm not going to have shame. I'm not going to have shame. Well, good luck with that. That doesn't work. What we do is we transform the pride into dignity. I walked into that pharmacy as the dignity of the Empress of Infinite Supply and Radiant Love of the Galactic Council of Women, all genders welcome, a formal trial attorney that never lost a case, someone who has the highest like colleagues all over the world, the greatest family, this most amazing fiance, the most amazing, beautiful friends and family in all walks of life, beautiful environments to live in, and know that I'm here devoted to raise the amperage of humanity for myself and for everyone, with poo in my pants and pee and stinking like a toddler, and with, the diaper. And I mean, that dignity then begets humility. Because that's what I thought when I got it too. It's like, Cindy, this just happens to humans. And that just happens when I was already feeling depleted and I was looking outside of myself to someone I loved to make me feel better. And when they didn't do that, how dare you? And then I was going to be snippy. And I don't like being snippy. I was snippalicious. I was the queen of snip. I don't want to be snippy. I like to have repartee, but I don't want to do that. I don't like how I feel. It's not compassionate to me. So this brings me back to the thwarting of desires. I'm going to read that quote again with the dramatic eyeglasses once more. Anger is the fume of an irritated mind. It is caused by the thwarting of desires. It feeds the limited ego, which is the limited affirmation of separateness. The definition of ego is the affirmation of being separate. We need some of that so we don't drive off cliffs and walk into other people. But the rest of it, feeds the limited ego and is used for domination and aggression. It aims at removing the obstacles existing in the fulfillment of desires. And that's where I will say and call on the grace and compassion for all of our desires on this planet. When our desires are aligned with our smaller self, with our limited notions, with our strictly perspective that all we are is a body and all we are is a mind, and we don't have a spirit and we don't have a soul, and other people don't either, our desires will necessarily lead us to cause more pain for ourselves and others. And the best that we can get when we're in that kind of small self-desire land is relief from our desires. And it does feel good in the moment. Like if you're so anxious and you need some sort of substance to get out of it, like Xanax or alcohol or whatever it might be, it might be in the short term to be able to have that quick fix so that you can get out of it enough to have perspective. But what happens is we get addicted to something outside of ourselves. God bless us, whether it be food, alcohol, substance, anger, anything. Terrible TV shows, wonderful TV shows, wild blueberries, cheesesteaks, like whatever it is. We get addicted to something outside of ourselves to fulfill those desires so we don't have to be in that desperate state of wanting, of feeling lack, of not belonging, of feeling out of control, feeling like the chaos in our mind and our body and our environment needs to stop now so we don't literally explode. It's really figurative, but it feels literal. And it takes a lot of strength to go through that feeling to the other side and to use those things that will actually allow our desires. I say there's a trinity or a trifecta or a lineage of desires. There's wants, needs, and longings. And I'll call them all desires. And when those desires come from the surface level of wants, or even just the base human needs, like as Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of food, shelter, water, all that kind of stuff, when it's not being fueled from the deeper longings that really have nothing to do with what happens in our environments, we're never going to feel secure. We might feel relief from insecurity. We might feel relief from feeling in danger. We might feel relief from desperation and wanting, or shame, or chaos, or humiliation. But we will never feel security that comes from the soul. And so the compassion to know that, like the right church, wrong fuel, like that self-loathing or anger or resentment or harshness or quickness or snapping comes from wanting our desires to be fulfilled, is pointing the way like a beacon, like a flashlight into those part of ourselves that could use a bit of a clearing, a bit of an opening, just like an artery opening, so that the blood and energy can flow. Because what we truly long for, that will fuel our needs and our wants, is to know that we are infinite, that we have an eternal soul, that we have the ability to drop to the level of the present eternal moment where all problems dissolve, where love, which is the primal force of the universe and not like, inspires our human existence, where we have a perspective of this lifetime as being part of us, a gift, but a gift that has a completion, never an end. That we long to see and be seen with the compassion, with the love tempered with wisdom, as a human being awakening to our spiritual nature, as a spiritual being doing the best it can to infuse our human personality with the truth of our unlimited nature. And from that place, when our longings become what really matter to us, when we long for generosity of spirit, for compassion, for abundance, for prosperity plus, by the way, we're launching an app May 2022 called Prosper Plus, which is designed to serve the upliftment of humanity in the most crazy, great, easy, worldwide way. Ooh la la, I can't wait for you all to get it. That's so wonderful. To serve, that's longing for service. I'm feeling it so much now. We long to serve. In service, we affirm oneness, not helping someone because they're lesser, but just to serve their awakening into their true power. We long for faith. We long for trust. We long for dance. We long for laughter. We long for joy. We long for conviviality. Well, you might not long for it, but I long to say the word convivial more and more and more in conviviality, because it is such a wonderful word. And I believe it comes from the Latin, like with life force. And convivial, I always think of such a convivial atmosphere. Everyone is just so accepting and can play off one another and grow in this wonderful repartee and creative atmosphere. Let's all be more convivial. And think of what you long for too, to know that you matter. I long to radiate the truth that I know that we have infinite supply within us and around us. That the systems that we've based our families, our communities, our countries, our financial systems upon, that come from the notion of lack and that we have to compete, accumulate, or suffer lack of, is just, it's a great big freaking motherfucking fib. And we're going to start telling the truth. We long for capital T truth, which is way different than facts. So I want to read something to complete from this quote from this wonderful man. His name is Jeff Wolverton. I love him like crazy. I'm so grateful for how he serves me and everyone in the world. It's said that anger is connected to the mental body. So it's within the power of the aspirant, which means us, to control other aspects, like the 7 deadly sins, like pride, lust, greed, envy, sloth, whatever the other ones are, I don't know. But for anger requires the grace and intervention of the avatar or a perfect master, which means like a God-realized person, like a saint, a full master. But anger requires the grace and intervention of the greater. For this reason, don't feel discouraged if you find that controlling anger is extremely difficult. And anger, anger's first cousin is harshness, and its spouse is resentment. And I'm sure it has a whole bunch of siblings and, mildly contemptuous and an air of disgust and aloof and all of those kind of things that come from anger. But for us to remember that the grace of compassion, that we're going to have it, and the grace of a perfect master, grace comes from, I looked it up. It comes from, I love this definition. It's the free and unmerited favor of God, Great Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, Baba, science, nature, love, universe, whatever word works for you. The free and unmerited favor of God, the salvation of sinners, and the bestowal of blessings. And by the way, sin just comes from the Latin or the archery term, off the mark. So the salvation of the off the markers. I'm off the mark quite frequently. And the bestowal of blessings. So imagine calling upon grace right now, unmerited. You didn't have to be good in your abacus measuring or anyone else's to get it. It's free. You don't have to pay it back. the grace to come to us to heal the originating cause of anger. It's trying to remove the obstacles of our desires and those desires that aren't in harmony with our soul's longing. So I'm going to invite you, if you haven't already, to close your eyes. I am too, and I'm going to let my gaze fall to my Ajna chakra, and let it open inward to see myself as I truly am, and to call on the imagination, how I would see the energy of grace, which would be a pouring nectar of gold and shimmering light all through my body and through my being and through my home and through my cars and through my bank accounts and through my family structures and communities in the world, calling on this grace to open up any of these blockages or these short circuits in my energy system where my wants and needs aren't in alignment with the longings that will propel me to the satisfaction of my soul, propel you to the fulfillment of your life's incarnation. And let it just open and revivify, again with conviviality, revivifying this body of ours, regenerating it, revitalizing it. I'm sending some now to my precious voice box that has some strain from a coughing spasm. Send it anywhere in your body, and I'm sending it to my mental structures to forgive myself and others when we play this dance of forgetting that we're one. And let this nectar, just taking some 360-degree breaths, although prana or life force rides on the oxygen molecules that come in through your nose, you can direct that prana to come in through the cells of your skin and direct it through the oxygen to everywhere in your body, including the matrix of your mind. Just saying, let my being be in full alignment with my soul, with the infinite oneness, the source, the eternally benevolent and all merciful source of creation. And then let us offer this experience for everyone and everything, including our precious planet, as she receives an infusion of the highest light vibrations to rise her into the level of energy necessary to support the transformation of the elements of this planet and all the sentient beings that inhabit it. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes and take in your surrounding. See if you can see. I have one of my healers says, choose 5 things to just connect in with, to bring you back fully into your body after such a high vibrational experience. I will say I just looked at the 3 orchids that are blooming right now. There's a big one over top and 2 little ones, and I like to see that as God shining on me and my precious fiance. How fun, wonderful to be 57 and say fiance. Plus it's French, and I think that French vibrates at the level of the genitals. So let's all say more French things. Oh, my fiance, ooh, feels so good. Dear wonderful people, in this very moment, in this eternal now, I am with you as part of the oneness. I am radiating compassion from the depth of my being to the depth of your being and letting it trickle out into our body and our minds and to everyone and everything. Have some fun being you. Maybe have a delicious cup of tea and check out the Galactic Council Women, All Genders Welcome. And certainly when the app is released on May 6, 2022, depending on when you receive this, come be part of it. love and blessings to your wonderful, wonderful person and people. Mwah.